Hey guys, it's Mythology's Bot here. We have Gor-Titan-Banisher, or one of our last builds that we have. We're going to go into the Psycharium, check his build out, and then hopefully we're going to have the Skitarii next June 23rd, so I'm hoping to build some new builds off of that one too. But let's go in with Stephanie, and we'll see how we're doing, okay? So like normal, we're going to do a breakdown of the weapons, kind of go over the curios, and then we'll go over the talent tree itself. And then just some general tips and tricks just about how to swing the hammer and what I generally do in a mid-session fight. So let's go into the operative and let's check out the primary weapons, secondary weapons, and the curios together to start with his builds for Gor-Titan-Banisher. So right now we're starting off with the Thunder Hammer, the Iron Helm MK4. Now, I think the other one, it has a I think it's Crucius, that's what it's called. That's the original one. That one's also very good. I like this because it's a little bit more crowd control-y. It's really good to kind of swing around. The Crucius is also a good hammer. It just depends on which one you like. It's preference at that point. And then for the lowest stat on that one will be the defenses, but damage, crowd control, penetration, and first target are all maxed out. And then with that, for the perks, we're gonna go for carapace armored enemies and unyielding enemies. Just for the two types, they're gonna be probably the most common. You're gonna hit this thing in the head with are carapace and unyielding. Along with that, for the blessings, we're taking head taker, so we get strength on hit, stacks 5 times, and then with that thrust, that's strength based on the charge time of your heavy attack. So that's really going to build up when you get that swing going, right? When you really kind of swing into it. And then with that, we have the quick draw stub revolver, Zarina MK2A. And this one, I like this one because it has more armor penetration and it's higher damage than the other one. But the single load round is kind of tough sometimes. I use it for a sniping tool. It depends on what you like doing. I would say the other version of the quick draw stub revolver is a lot funnier. A lot. It's also good too. So, but past that, same thing with most of the other ones. Damage, reload, critical bonus, and penetration are all maxed out, and then mobility is the lower stat. And then for the perks, we have flak armored enemies and then reload speed just to make sure that reload's going very quickly. And then with that Crucian Relate, so that's a critical chance for each expended round of your weapon resets on reload. And then hand cannon, so we stack into that critical chance with hand cannon rending on critical hit as well. And then for the scriptures, or for the just curios in general, so looks like we have blessing mainly for toughness. Got some max health and some max health. And then with that, we're doing combat ability generation, toughness. Revive speed is very important. I love putting that in every single character I have. And then with that also, toughness, sprint speed, and then a combat ability generation. And we pretty much have that combat ability regeneration throughout the whole thing. And then another toughness revive speed to make sure that we really get people up quickly. Okay. So let's go in the talent. We're going to the skill tree breakdown real quick. Now, I'm pretty sure this is a modified version. Probably people have very similar builds. I don't really know, but I do have a lot of fun with this build. I wish I had some more points to take some very critical areas, but it is what it is. So right now we have Disdain going straight down to that. So damage on your next melee attack for each enemy hit stacks 5 times. The way the hammer swings sometimes you can clip with the edge of the hammer and go through multiple enemies. So that can really stack up pretty quickly. Enemies within, enemies without, replenish toughness per second while within 5-meter range of an enemy. Increases 1%. Monstrosities counts 5. That's just, it's solid regeneration of toughness because you're getting solid. You're always being surrounded by enemies. There's no reason why you wouldn't take that. I think that's pretty much a standard in every Zealot build, I would think. Second Wind, replenish 15% toughness on a successful dodge, just because that's, you dodging all the time, and especially with the build that we're going to be going over, it really does help. Purge the Unclean, so increase damage against infested and unyielding enemies. Unyielding and infested are probably going to be, they're going to be the big guys and mutants and a few other ones like that. the really ones you're going to want to one-shot, you know? Duelist, so finesse damage for 3 seconds and successful dodge. Just, you're stacking those dodge talents up. Blades of Faith. Now, I really like Blades of Faith, but I have seen people rock Immolation Grenades and Stunstorm Grenades. Those are both very solid options. I just like Blades of Faith because stacking with the cloak that you have, the damage those outputter is crazy. And then obviously everybody has Until Death. Then we go over here to Wrath Be Swift. Every enemy melee attacks cannot stun you on taking damage. 15% movement speed for 2 seconds. Just the not stunning you is amazing. And then we kind of come down in the middle, and these are a lot of our like Until Death kind of things. The talents, if you get one shot, you can actually kind of bring yourself back, right? So when Until Death ends, you regain health based on the damage you dealt during Until Death to a maximum of 25% health. Melee damage dealt for heals for 3 times that amount. You're dealing a lot with a Thunderhammer. It's just going to happen, right? Against the odds, for every 2 enemies with 5 meals, gain 2% damage and 10% cleave, stacks 5 times. You're always surrounded by enemies. There's no reason why you wouldn't take that. But there's also many other routes to go in this as well. Shield of Contempt. When an ally in Gor-Titan takes damage, they get 60% damage reduction for 4 seconds. Triggers every 8 seconds. That just helps your allies out. That's just straight amazing. Yeah, it's really good. Providence, so you get Revive Speed, and allies you assist revive get 10% movement speed and 15% damage reduction. Hey, guess what? More Revive Speed. That's awesome. Abolish the Blasphemers. 15% versus elites. Solid as well. Beacon of Purity heals corruption from the current wound for you and your allies, including every 1 second. Very good for fighting some of the big guys like the slugs or the demon hosts. It will heal you constantly from that corruption. It's just kind of nice to have, you know. Then we go obviously toughness boost. You're kind of required to take that one. Then we're going to go over here to the right on Shroudfield. I can go over that, but pretty much it makes you invulnerable for a little amount of time. It's a really nice stealth, and it has gotten me out of so many bad situations that I almost have to use this sometimes. Mastercrafted Shroudfield. Shroudfield duration increased by 2 seconds upon leaving stealth. Gain minus 75% threat and 50% backstabs damage for 5 seconds. It's really good for like rezzing people when you're like, okay, well, I'm the only person left alive. I'm going to res this person. That really helps them not getting absolutely killed instantly. Invigorating Revelation. So Shroudfield replenishes 50% toughness, gain 30% damage resistance for 8 seconds upon exiting stealth. Solid. And then Perfectionist, restore ability cooldown stealth kill. Monstrosities restore 50%, Ogres restore 30%, and others restore 15%. Just solid. It's really useful to have because it helps that regenerate very quickly. And then we're going to come over here to the right talent tree. And I pretty much maxed this out except for a couple spots. And now I would absolutely love some other talents in these left and middle trees. I just can't afford it. I just want like 1 or 2 more points, and I just don't have it, right? So let's start with time to kill. 50% melee backstab damage for 8 seconds, or for 8-second cooldown. So it's just good backstab damage for like a one-shot swing, right? Pious Cutthroat. Plus 75 ability cooldown regeneration for 2 seconds after a melee backstab or melee weak spot hit. You're usually going to take this hammer and smack people on weak spots anyways. So there's no reason why you don't want to stack that up. And that's going to help. That's going to stack in addition with this Perfectionist to help you restore that faster. And then Hubris. So we get 15% damage resistance after weak spot kill. You're going to smack around things with this hammer, and it's going to hit things in the head, and it's going to kill them. So that's going to stack up pretty quickly. We also have Relentless Fever there, so sprint speed and minus % sprint cost. Sprinting for 1 second grants slowdown immunity. That's awesome. Love doing that. Riposte, so 5% melee damage after successful dodge, stacking 3 times. Awesome. I mean, we're always stacking into that dodge, and that's a lot of things we hear. That's an easy kind of, not thing to abuse, but dodge is a very excellent kind of talent to have. And then we're going to go down into the keystone down on this right side, this momentum area. So we have Inexorable Judgment. So moving grants you momentum. When you hit an enemy, spend all momentum, spending 1% melee attack speed, ranged attack speed, and damage. Stacks per stack lasts 6 times. And then we come down and grab both sides and then go straight down in the middle. So you replenish 4.4% toughness per second per spent stack momentum during its duration. So when you're moving around and you spend it, hey, you get toughness back. That's awesome. Inebriated pose? I think I said that correctly. Gain 3 stacks of momentum on a successful dodge. You're just going to stack into that dodge. It's just easier to do at that point. I mean, we have so many talents already fed into dodge. There's no reason why you wouldn't want to do that. And then we're going to do eternal. Wow, I'm doing well today. Increase the duration of exoneral judgment to 10 seconds. So that increases this ability to have that to keep going. And instead of 6 seconds, it's lasting 10. That just increases the duration. That's just a ton of fun. Okay, so let's kind of go over some of the combat poses, just in general, tips and tricks. Let's go with, I guess, the swing for the hammer is probably one of the most important things that I have noticed. And sometimes when you're swinging this hammer, I sometimes actually pivot around the hammer head. So hammer's head's here. I'll actually swing around that pivot point and do like a 360 around that, and kind of that point is where I will hit from. So I'll kind of hit and then kind of move around that central point to use that as a pivot point. But let's just kind of go in here. These guys are kind of good because they can kind of, Ragers are good target practice just because they can stand up to a few hits. So obviously the special charge, that charges a Thunder Hammer. And then you're going to want to get kind of a good swing on that straight towards any kind of weak spot, right? The head is the best spot you're probably going to hit usually, right? That being said, it's going to be one of the more armored parts of the body. So if you hit somewhere and like, hey, groin, still a good place to hit somebody. I know that's kind of like not kosher, but still not a bad place. But if any place you can get weak spot hits, right, that's where you're going to want to do. And what I'm talking about when I'm saying pivoting around the hammerhead is where you're kind of like circling around this and using that kind of as the pivot point, right? So you're kind of flinging around this central point and using this hammerhead as the middle of your circle. See how that kind of goes? And even if you miss sometimes on that first hit, right, you can use it to follow up with your second hit pretty well. And it also charges up your power attacks as well. So like it'll bounce back. See that kind of bounce back? That has already wound up a power attack for you right there. So it makes that secondary non-powered hit even harder sometimes. So it's just a really fun. I like this Crucius. And let's see, there's another thing about this. What I was saying is about cleaving for certain targets. When you clip certain units, like these guys, see how that goes through 2 of them at once, based off where that clip is? You can actually do a push block and cleave through. Yeah, see that? See, you're cleaving through like 4 or 5 of them at once. And that push block really kind of hits at the right area that you want to hit at, right? You can even hit some of those guys. I mean, look at this. Really solid hit there. And then the one thing about this is, like, yeah, go for legs. You can trip him. You can knock him around. So I didn't hit him directly where I wanted to hit him, but that can do some wicked damage. Look at that. I mean, heck. And there's a Shroud Field. So that's the other thing that you can do. If you compare with that, you can see how that's almost 50% regenerated just by killing this one Ogren. So that's one thing, is using Shroud Field with your power attack and thrust, stacking all those power momentums, and then unleashing that at once. Obviously, your preferred targets are going to be Ogrens, Reapers, pretty much anything that has a head or any kind of crit location. You're really going to want to nail, right? See how that really kind of visually makes them jump like that. And then obviously the push block, and then in general just the swing pattern, side, side, and then overhead. Kind of like that. Obviously you're going to get kind of a backward pattern. And then just remembering that, like, Thunder Hammers are really good at taking out some priority targets. And they're really good at stunning things. And then if you can really start to hear, like, the I think the Zealots I hear are the best when I'm hearing like a Zealot kickoff with their hammer. It's just this thunder flash of like bang, 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 bang. That means they are literally hitting heads left and right. It's just a ton of fun. I really enjoy the Iron Helm hammer, mainly because of that cleave, and then just in general the weak spot hits that it has. But the one thing that you do have to kind of be aware of is when you don't make contact, when you hit some armor or something like that. That can knock a shield out of the way, but you have to kind of get the hammerhead across, because if you hit the side, you hit the top, sometimes you just can miss, and you can hit a wrong spot, right? You hit a shoulder, that's not gonna, well, that hit him in the side of the head, but like even then, shoulders, not a great place to hit. You're gonna want to aim for heads, throats, necks, groins, anywhere that you can stumble, right? Anywhere like that. And then stacking that with Shroud Field. Now, Shroud Field is a pretty self-explanatory. It's a straight damage boost. So you kind of want to stack that within getting like a specialized kill. Let's just make sure we'll finish this guy off and just see how we do there. So, and this will definitely one-shot him. Obviously, this can one-shot Crushers. Not a bad thing. I mean, you're planning on it, right? See? That's a lot of DPS there. So let's kind of go into the ranged weapons and the knives as well. Obviously, revolver, pretty self-explanatory. The less bullets it has in it, the more crit chance, the more rending it has, just because of that Crucian Relay as well. So like obviously you're aiming for weak spots, and you want to aim for areas that are not like, watch this. Oh, there we go. Well, I mean that did pretty well there, but you can also, and then reload one bullet, so that build up of crit is already in there, and it's way easier to kind of rend like that. And then just aiming for certain locations, aim for tanks. You can go through multiple enemies if you hit the right spot, right? And then that's just pretty self-explanatory, reload one after one. But the other mark of the revolver does reload a whole clip, which is very useful. I enjoy that one a lot. I just like the armor impact of this one. It actually can cut through multiple enemies at once, right? And that's the best part. And then we'll kind of go into the Shroud Field real quick. Obviously, when you're moving around, you can see that momentum stack building up. Just constantly moving around. Even the non-powered attacks. Some of these, I just kind of swing towards areas to knock people out of the way. And then using your Shroud Field to be able to res fallen enemies, huge. I have done that in so many bad instances to save runs, where Shroud Field has stealthed me up and helped me out, and then kept the fight going because I've managed to res a few of my friends because of our fast res speed, right? And then we're just kind of moving around, grinding, getting our stacks of momentum as we do this, and then once we hit once, we kind of get that speed bonus, or that spending bonus up. And then we'll just do the Shroud Field real quick. So obviously Shroud Field, but then the knives. Knives right there. See that? They are so deadly. When you hit that Shroud Field and you start tossing knives, not only do you not stealth back up, or you not break stealth, those knives have an incredible potential to kill. They can go through a lot of armors. They can one-shot a lot of Ragers, Maulers, anything that actually has even some carapace. They can go through, I've seen it go through mutants in the back. It can kill a lot of things. We'll wait until this comes back up. And then we'll test it on this guy right here. See, yeah, the critical is huge. And then you can even kind of aim from far away. That was the last knife in the sequence there. You will run out of them with them pretty quick. I do run out of them with them pretty quick. But yeah, they are just, I love those Blades of Faith, right? They are very nice to kind of deal with certain targets that, hey, you don't have any bullets loaded. We do right now, but sometimes you just don't, right? And that's good to have those knives for those situations. I think it is much easier to throw from the stance of the pistol rather than the stance of the hammer. For some reason, I have a lot more trouble hitting with this stance than I do with this stance, right? I don't know why. I think it's probably an aim thing like that. But this is just the Shadow Hammer build for Gor-Titan-Banisher. I really have a lot of fun with this one. It deals with a lot of heavy targets, that Crushers, Maulers, a lot of things that a lot of builds have tough times dealing with. And it's essentially a lot of fun just going into and leading the charge and hitting people in the head and just watching bodies fly away. It's just a really solid build. I have a lot of fun playing with it. And you guys will see this a bunch on my stream because I play this guy pretty consistently, Gor-Titan-Banisher. We're sitting probably about 20 minutes on this one. That's actually kind of one of the longer ones. But I don't have too much more to go over. Just in general, I use Shroud Field to res teammates as quickly as possible, buff my Thunderhammer, Iron Helm Thunderhammer way up, and then use it for knives, or you can even use it with your range shot too to do a really good range kill. Here, let's see this. One shot. And that was even with a full clip. So it's a really fun build. I really wish I had some more points that I could go into some of the other areas. But I really like this build because it kind of shows where the critical locations are on certain enemies and how to target them and how to move around that hammer in a way that you're really kind of pivoting around that central head and just using that main area to kind of slice and cut on weak spots. But yeah, it's been great. This is one of my last builds before we get to Skitarii. But it's been great kind of seeing you guys here. Thanks for the likes, subscribes, views. Everything you guys are doing is amazing. I can't wait to see you guys on Tuesday. And we'll end it here. Stay safe out there, travelers. Good luck. Bye.